Welcome back, everyone. So for today, what I want to do is talk about some changes I made to Karador, and in general, what makes a bad deck. I have 15 commander decks that I've made myself. All my own ideas, either in whole or in part. Obviously, all of them have some inspiration from other people for some of the card choices, some of the ideas behind the deck. Karador, he started off as the Hermit Druid combo deck, which was brutal. It was oppressive. So much so that it didn't last very long. And I tore the deck apart, and I decided to, because I still like the idea of Karador, to do something different. So I chose Tribal Spirits. If any of you know the extent of the Spirit tribe, the spirits available, you know that they don't have a lot of support. In any case, if you want to see what the Hermit Druid Karador deck is, just go on the web, look up Hermit Druid and Karador, and feast your eyes on the depravity that returns. Those decks are basically just degenerate toolbox decks. Being Tribal Spirits now, Karador is a lot slower. And it's still fun to play. I still really enjoy it. And I kind of need it. Something that happened about a month ago, 2 months ago, somebody posted in one of my threads, my videos, your deck is bad. Okay. Why? Why is it bad? What makes you, in your experience and wisdom, decide that my build, which with the lads I play, is borderline oppressive, is a bad build? It's really not fair, not honest with yourself, to just say this deck is bad without explaining why. Is it too many high casting cost creatures? Is it the mana base? Is it there is a more efficient commander, more efficient creatures, and you just prefer to play more efficient creatures, and you think anybody who plays things just for fun, things they enjoy, is just being a bad deck builder. But anyway, since I have 15 commander decks, one of them has to be the worst, one of them has to be the best. And that's just the way forced ranking works. Karador is objectively my worst deck because it's my slowest. Recently I was goldfishing with it, and I decided to make some changes. So, out came Temple of the False God. It works. I started taking this out of more and more of my decks. In the first few turns, it doesn't do anything. It just frustrates you because you're staring at a potential 2 colorless mana that you can't use until you have 5 lands in play. So, turn 1, 2, 3, 4, if this is one of the first lands you get, doesn't really help you. So for that reason I'm taking it out. I still have another deck. So it's not a bad card. It just, I need to take some of the inefficiencies out of Karador to bolster some of his deficiencies. I also took out Mirror Entity. 2 and a white for a 1/1 changeling. Every creature type at all times. He is a spirit by default. Spend X creatures I control, become XX, and gain all creature types till end of turn. The thing is, it feels like soft cheating. So he is a spirit, but because he doesn't have spirit in hard text on his type line, I decided to go ahead and cut a Mirror Entity. So that came out. Ethereal Haze. 1 white for a fog. That's an arcane spell, and being a lot of this is Kamigawa, I can pick up my arcane spells out of the graveyard through the effects of some of the different spirits I have. I decided to try to go with something different, lean on Kami of False Hope for this effect, and take this fog out. course, it could go right back in if playtesting shows that I shouldn't have cut it. Right, to replace the Temple of the False God, Gavany Township. I don't know if any of you saw the last time I talked about Karador, but he now has a Cauldron of Souls. Cauldron of Souls, 5 mana artifact, tap it. Any number of target creatures gains persist until end of turn. Of course, persist. If they die, they come back with a -1/-1 counter. This allows me to get rid of those counters in one fell swoop. And it doesn't come into play tapped. It provides mana immediately. So Gavany Township is replacing Temple of the False God. Kind of for Ethereal Haze, kind of for Mirror Entity, it really doesn't matter. I decided to try Ethereal Absolution. 4 black and white. Creatures I control get +1/+1. Creatures I don't control get -1/-1. So it kind of takes care of tokens right off the bat. And 2 black, white, exile target card from the opponent's graveyard. If it was a creature, I get a 1/1 black and white spirit creature token flying. So that helps the deck. It gives me more spirits. I also decided to put this Grave Pact in there. The deck didn't have this effect, and it should, because I'm doing a lot of sacrificing. Since Karador's the commander, I'm not too worried about creatures dying, because I plan to get them back. So that I need some value out of this. So, Grave Pact. 1 and 3 black. Whenever one of your creatures dies, everybody else kills one of their creatures too. Sacrifices them. And honorable mention, Field of Souls. 2 colors, white, white. For an enchantment, whenever non-token creature is put in your graveyard for play. This now says Spirit. So, in the Great type tribe upgrade reconstruction they did a few years ago, this is now routed to put a Spirit token into play. So, if a creature I control dies, and I have this play, I get a 1/1 white Spirit flying, which kind of helps the deck, but I couldn't really think of anything to cut. So let me show you why this is a kind of a weak deck, and show you how I'm trying to compensate for that. When I first built it, almost all the spirits were from Kamigawa block, the first Kamigawa. And if any of you played back then, you know it was slow. The creatures were overcosted for the most part. They slowed everything down. Some of the set abilities like Bushido were underwhelming. But it's all I had to work with. In the intervening time, there's been a lot of new spirits that have come out, which has changed the feel of the deck. It no longer feels like it used to, and it no longer feels as coherent as it used to, because before, being almost all Kamigawa, everything had that feel. Now this guy, Remorseful Cleric, 1 and a white for 2/1 flying Spirit Cleric. Sacrifice him, exile all cards from target player's graveyard. That's a good effect. That's a cheap cost. That's not bad stats. And he's a spirit. But he sure as hell doesn't look like he's from Japan now, does he? So that feels odd. What else feels? I still got Jugan. Musine de Gras. French Seedborn Muse. So she's a spirit. 3 green for 2/4. Every time your opponents kick their untapped step off, you untap with them. So you're always untapping your lands, your creatures, whatever you have, along with your opponents. And she's always been in the deck. Divinity of Pride, this is a edition that I've made this year that can kind of look Japanese, but not really. I did get Kadama of the East Tree, who in Goldfishing, he's pretty cool. I like him a lot. Whenever another permanent enters the battlefield under my control, if it wasn't put on from this ability, I can put a permanent card with equal or lesser CMC from my hand onto the battlefield. So being that a lot of these spirits are higher casting cost, getting a 2-for-1 if he's in play really helps the deck, really pushes it along. Ring Boss, Mari's Wake, of course. Karmic Guide. This is one of the core cards in any Karador build, I think. So 3, white, 2/2, flying protection Black Angel Spirit with Echo. When she enters the battlefield, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. So, cast her, bring something back out of the graveyard. Next turn, you don't pay the Echo. You use Karador's ability to cast 1 creature each turn. You cast her, and she brings another creature out with her. So, it's a way of getting your bigger creatures back out, and it's a way of kind of getting a 2-for-1. What else is Horobi? Horobi is still there. You'll say the Morning Star. Thawing Glaciers. This deck has Exploration and Burgeoning. Whenever I have a deck with green, if I have a Thawing Glaciers, I have a Burgeoning. So Thawing Glaciers, it comes into play tapped. Spend 1, tap it. After it untaps during your untap step on the next turn, of course. Go find a basic land, put it into play tapped, and at the end of the turn, put this back in your hand. So it's slow. It's really slow. But if a Burgeoning, if one of your opponent plays land on their turn, you can play this back down tapped along with it. Burgeoning, of course, is a 1 green enchantment. Whenever an opponent plays a land, you can play a land. So if you've got this land, you play it, you're in tap step, and untaps, and you can do it again. I'm trying to think of the other notable cards. So this is the finisher. So, Iname, Death Aspect. If I have Patriarch's Bidding in my hand, and I cast him, when he comes into play, search your library for any number of spirit cards and put them into your graveyard. Then shuffle your library. So he comes into play. I get all the spirits out of my library, all of them. And then I cast Patriarch's Bidding, and they all come out. All of them. There's like, I think I counted, what have we got? 34. So 34 spirits potentially come back out. Barring, of course, I would have some in play at the time. I would have him in play, so, 1 less. But it's it's really fun to do that. And it really freaks your opponents out when you just pick up your graveyard and you go, "Bleh! All these creatures are in play now." And they say, "Oh, that's not good." And you say, "It is for me." Right. So Selfless Spirit, another efficient spirit that's come out in later years. 1 colorless, 1 white for 2/1 flying spirit cleric. Sacrifice him, creatures I control gain indestructible until end of turn. Of course, with Karador, I can sacrifice him, make my stuff indestructible, recast him with Karador on my turn when I have the priority to cast creatures. Greater Good. So there you go. Sacrifice creature, draw cards equal to the sacrifice creature's power, then throw away 3 cards. Nice. So, one of the few cheap Kamigawa spirits. 1 and a white for 2/2 spirit. Sacrifice him, destroy target enchantment. So, that's one of the reasons I put the Grey Pact in. I've got a lot of these cards that let me sacrifice them for some effect. And the graveyard lets me double the effect. Get 2 for the price of 1. I get to destroy an enchantment, and all my opponents get to lose a creature, so I don't worry about it. Survival of the Fittest, another way of throwing cards in your graveyard. Of course, this is key in most of the Hermit Druid Karador builds. As is Hermit Druid himself, you want this as quickly as possible to go get the Hermit Druid if you can't find him readily, and then you just go to town and your graveyard turns into a toolbox. There she is, Patriarch's Bidding. Everybody choose the creature type. Return all creature cards the type chosen this way from the graveyard to play. What are you going to choose? Dwarves. You? Spirits. Another new edition, because I got her in the original Onslaught foil, and she ties into the Seedborn Muse very nicely. The Black Muse, of course, steals the zombies. And as much as I would like to have all 3 in there, the Windborn Muse is just useless in this deck. She doesn't do anything useful. But anyway, 3 and a white for 2/3 Flying Spirit. Creatures can attack me unless control pays 2 for each creature attacking me. So, slows them down a bit. Word Away, Exploration. Another way of speeding up things to a small degree. Urborg, Tomb of Yawgmoth. And of course there is a Cabal Coffers in there somewhere. Lifespinner. So, this is another way of getting the Iname Death Aspect. Get him in play, 3/3 Spirit for 4, sacrifice 3 spirits when I can tap him, and I don't have anything that gives haste in this deck. Search your library for Legendary Spirit card and put it to play. So, Iname comes out, Graveyard gets full, Patriarch's Bidding gets cast, and everybody says, great, next game. Sylvan Library. My friend Ren, he's really good at the altars. So I had this 5th edition library, and I wanted to extend it out. I really wanted a Legends version, but come on, they're like 150 euros. Didn't want to spend 150 euros. So I bought this for 20 euros, and I gave Ren another 20 euros to make it look like that, to make it full art and beautiful. So there's my library. Haru-Onna. These days, I guess she'd cost, what, 2? Maybe 3? Kamigawa. 3 colorless, 1 green, 4 for a 2/1 spirit, then when it comes to play, you draw a card. As an uncommon. And sure, whenever you play a Spirit Arcane spell, you can bounce her back to your hand, but only to pay 4 again to get another card. That was Kamigawa in a nutshell. And I had a lot of creatures like that. Hang on, my camera's going to cut off. Let me get ready for part 2.